So ramen noodles, courtesy of my son. So he was a really bad fussy eater. We're reformed now. We're still getting there. But I wanted to teach him how to eat noodles because I'm like, they cook in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So we got there, and then he asked one day, could he learn about ramen? I was like, sure, we can learn about ramen. I got him to watch some cookery shows, and he's all about Japanese food. So this is compliments of him asking, can we get a dish? Because I tried a few recipes, and they weren't the nicest. Very strong for kids, for their taste buds. So I've toned this down. So this is family friendly, especially for fussy eating kids. So the first thing, we're coming out of January, and I know everyone's feeling the pinch with ingredients, so I'm trying to keep it really low cost. The idea of ramen is that you've got a really well-flavoured stock. So I'm actually using chicken thighs, but I get them with the skin and with the bones. And I just remove the bones, and I'm just going to put these into 3 pints of water. So that's 1 kilo or 1,200 grams of chicken altogether. So they're the bones from that. That goes in. So you need a really good flavoured stock. And then I'm putting in 1 carrot. I don't even peel the carrot. It's the best thing I learned when I was studying culinary arts in school, in college, I should say, because you just didn't peel anything. Ginger is really important flavour in ramen. And garlic, unpeeled again. And then, because I don't want to waste anything or don't want to use anything I don't need, I'm using the green tops for the spring onions. So the bottoms is a lovely oniony flavour, normally very strong for kids to eat. So I avoid putting this in as the topping later on. I put this in for the stock. Now, a little secret. So another part of Japanese cooking, I think cooking in general, is umami. So it's the fifth taste that people don't really know how to describe it, so it means delicious. So think of roasting meats. You get this gorgeous smell in the air. You don't get it unless it's it's cooked, or it's aged, or it's dried. So I've got dried mushrooms here. They're shiitake now. If you can't find them, you can leave them out, but this adds a huge amount of flavour to it. I actually, when I buy them, I think I've had my shiitake mushrooms like for the last 5 years. So I don't use them. I use them sparingly, but they pack a punch because they're full of umami flavour. If you don't have them, leave them out. Or if your kids were going to see that going in, don't put it in, because if they see you putting in weird stuff that they don't know, they mightn't trust the food. So I'll leave people make up their own mind about that.
OK, that is your chicken stock.
So this gets cooked for 30 minutes, and then what I do is I take it off the heat and I just let it cool down in its own heat. If I wasn't serving straight away, I'd actually put in the fridge, and then I'd reheat it the next day and let those bones really, the flavour.
Take the flavour.
Yeah.
OK, so that's how easy it is to make, but at the same
stock.
time, with just a little cube and a bit of water,
you won't get the same flavour. And the trick to a good ramen is a really good tasting stock. That's the heart of it. So I would say use the bones. Chicken carcass, if you have that left over. That's why with this recipe, I use the whole of the chicken, as in the thighs. So the next part of this, so this is cooked, this is off the gas, and it actually turns this colour here. So it goes a really deep, dark brown colour. And that is only from 1 hour, like 30 minutes from cooking and then 30 minutes of resting. So what I do here, this is my trick. I use the chicken, but I cook it skin side down. So I dry it off to get off any water so it doesn't spit up. And I put it down, I put it on really low heat because I want to render down the fat. And once you render down the fat, you get more flavour. And you let that cook around 7 minutes each side, and then you bring up the heat a little bit. The trick with cooking chicken is, of course, you want to make sure it's cooked completely through, is this chicken is a lot more moist. And a lot of kids that would be fussy eating, if food's very dry, it's actually hard for them to swallow. So thigh meat is more naturally moist, and if you cut it really, really thin, it's easier for them to eat. So if they're having problems with chicken, this is what I did with my son. He actually went off chicken. So that's the chicken ready, and let it rest. Really, really important, let it rest. So that's been off the heat for 10 minutes. Now, this is the heart of the soup. So I strained off the stock, strained it off last night. And the next thing I'm going to add in, I did add in a chicken stock cube just for more flavour, but I added in like a low salt, because when you're cooking with kids, try and reduce the salt amount if you can, if they're very young. And then I've got miso paste. So this is fermented bean paste. This is full of umami, and it adds a really rounded flavour to the dish. I'm using the white stuff, so it comes in 3 different varieties. The white stuff is really sweet because it's not fermented as long, so it's not as strong in flavour. And this is a live culture, so it's kind of like putting yogurt into something. If I was to cook that, I kill off the live culture because it's full of good bacteria. So what you do is, once your broth is nice and warm, you take it off the heat and you just whisk it in. Now, if you're doing this in advance and it's gone a little bit cold, you can gently heat it, but just give it a whisk around, but don't let it boil because you're going to kill off that really healthy bacteria. So a little bit of mirin goes in. That's Japanese cooking wine. I have tried it with and without, and it does add that little bit more rounded flavour, which Mammy gives it.
So many levels to this. You're literally adding
but
levels of flavour
they're store cupboard, so this can last in your fridge for a very long time.
Oh yeah, they're all
Keep
things you could
fridge.
have in your
soy sauce. I used the light soy sauce. I tried this with the dark stuff, and my son wouldn't eat it because he said he didn't like the colour. It was too dark. So I actually just opted for the lighter stuff. And the next part of this is noodles. Now, ramen noodles is what they traditionally use. So I've got, like, you can get these in different shops. I went to the Asian supermarket last week, got these. Cook them to the directions at home. If your kids will only eat egg noodles, give them those. Just make sure you cook them al dente. Now, these come in a different language, so I don't know how long you cook these for, so you might need to do a little bit of trial and error. I'm dyslexic, but...
Is it to throw it against the wall trick as well? If it sticks on the wall, you're grand.
Or throw it at somebody, and if they're able to wear it, it's fine.
We won't do that this morning.
So they're cooked off in advance. So I'm just going to heat these a little bit in the broth, OK? So
you put them in with the broth?
Yeah, yes. So traditionally what you would do is you put the noodles in the bowl, steaming hot, but these aren't steaming hot. I heat them a little bit, and then you pour the broth over. So with ramen, the other thing as well is that you've got toppings. So in front of you there, you're going to help yourself to your own toppings. So I've got the tops of the spring onions. And what I did was I soaked those in cold water for 5 to 10 minutes. It takes away the real bitterness because kids don't like the real bitter flavour. Or a lot of kids don't like it of onion. And then the other thing I have in there, it's very messy, I've got bok choy. So some people will cook it in the broth, but kids prefer a lot of crunchy food, and it's not a really dark green vegetable, so it's not as offensive for some kids. If your kids think that's too dark, what I did with my son was I took out half of it and I topped it up with hot water just to get him used to the flavour. And then nothing gets wasted. I've actually crisped up chicken skin that was left over from the chicken. I'm going to give you chicken in a second.
So I can dip in here and I can put my own toppings on.
You help yourself. I'm going to cut you some chicken because it's nice and warm.
Can you use chopsticks?
No, I can't.
Well, I brought you special ones. So my son and my 2.5-year-old daughter can use chopsticks. I'm going to put a video later on Instagram to prove it. But I brought those in for you,
Why
Martin.
am I getting this one?
Because if you can't use chopsticks, it's a good place to learn.
Go for it. Taste the broth. I'm intrigued. I'm going to taste the broth, actually.
How can you taste broth with chopsticks?
But you have to put your toppings on or else it's not proper ramen. And people can help themselves because that's what actually flavours it.
Giving out to us, for heaven's sake.
I'm going to try it.
I wouldn't say giving out, I'd say advising strongly. And for anyone that has got kids at home that argue a little bit, do 3 of the same eggs, because last night I was doing this for dinner and I did 3 different eggs and my son nearly had a heart attack. Now, I haven't shown you how to use that. If anyone wants to see how to use those eggs, I've put up a little very good chopstick skills there, Paul. I put up a video on Instagram of how to make those little polka dot eggs.
Louise,
they're colourful and fun.
Thank you so much for that. Full recipe details are on our website as always, or you can follow Louise on Instagram. Just search for @LouiseLennox.